let's begin. So everybody who was with us last week, I know from the feedback we've gotten, you got so much out of Pauline's presentation, being with her, seeing what this marvelous human being is, and reading her poetry and listening to her poetry. What a gift. What an absolute gift. So let's welcome Paulann again.
My
Welcome to all
thanks
of
to
you. Let's get
Judy
going.
and my thanks to Joan for doing the logistical facilitation of this. What we're going to do in the hour that we have together is the first phase I call a spring. And then when our hour is up, my hope is to turn you loose for some writing that you will do on your own, maybe later today, maybe tomorrow, maybe a minute at a time. Click on the exit part of the Zoom. So what I will ask you to do in this hour that when we're going to work together is to be jotting down onto paper or on your keyboard. And if you're doing it, you're keyboarding it, of course you want to do it into a document that you'll save it. What you're going to be doing is down or keyboarding down what comes into your mind as I nudge you, as I cajole you, as I coax you into remembering things, in imagining things. It might be a name, you'll just jot it down. It might be a phrase, you'll just jot it down. It might be a bit of description, an image, what comes to mind. Now, if something wild, something unexpected comes to mind, don't snub it, turn your back on it, write it down, keyboard it down. Are you going to worry about spelling? Are you going to be concerned about punctuation, about grammar, about complete sentences, about correctness? No, no, no. Forget all of that. Just get it down. Don't worry about how it goes down onto the page or onto the keyboard. Just get it down. You're going to be recording what flows into your mind as quickly as you can and with as little worry as possible about, as I say, correctness or grammar or spelling or any of those. At this point, non-essential elements of writing. I'm not saying those elements won't ultimately be essential, they are, but at this point they are non-essential, non-essential. So as we do this, I'm going to be talking to you, guiding you along, but what you write down, what you keyboard will not, the big will not come from me. What you jot down, what you keyboard will come from you, will come from your memory, your imagination. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start with a list, and then we're going to move into a second list, and then we're going to take flight from there. And as you do this, as you're doing this, jotting down, always be thinking to yourself, be as specific as you possibly can. That means detail, detail, detail. It means name names, right? Be specific, be detailed. So here's the first list. I want you to recall and make a little list of older relatives, some people who were close to you, people important to you in your childhood. On your list, there may be a grandparent, an aunt, an uncle, a great aunt, great uncle, a dear family friend, a neighbor, a teacher. Closeness is the key. Okay, so take a minute, make a little list. Grandparents, aunts, uncles, great aunts, great uncles, family, friends, neighbors, teachers, older people in your young life, older people to whom you were close. Closeness is a key. Okay, now I'm hoping by this point, all of you will have at least one name on that list. And if there is anyone who doesn't have at least one name by now, can you let me know somehow? Because you're going to need one. I don't exactly, this is so different from being in a room with you as a, you know, as us as a group, but okay, I'm going to assume that you all have at least one name on that list. Now, what I'm going to do now is ask you from that list to choose one. And of course, if you have only one person on your list, that's an easy choice. You've got it made right now. Anyway, I'm going to ask you to choose one of those, and you're going to focus on that person for the time that we're going to spend doing this springboard. Now, what about the leftovers? What about the people you're leaving behind on that list? All right, please remember this. What you have on that list, the people you're going to kind of leave behind right now, that is a treasure. That is a kind of what? A kind of a treasure that you have that you can return to, because what we are going to do with that one person that you're choosing right now is something that you can do on your own with the people that you don't choose to write about today. Okay, but choose one. So does everybody have that one person chosen? I want you now to either circle that name or box it off or whatever, so you have that name in mind. As a matter of fact, if I were doing this at what would be the top of my empty page, I would write that person's name in bold capital letters, because what I want to do is I want my very essence to be concentrating on that person. So you've got that person, his or her name, their name, and now I want you to make another list. And I'm going to go through some possibilities because I want you to jot down, to recall something, some kind of important exchange or experience that you had with this person. All right, so here are some options. Recall something important you told this person. Something important or something that just comes to mind that you told, you remember telling this person. This is somebody, this is from your childhood. And this is somebody who was important to you in your childhood. So do you recall something that you told this person? Maybe a question that you asked him or her. If something comes to mind, jot it down. A secret you told him or her. Jot it down. Maybe something significant you gave to him or her. A little gift, something you found, something you thought that he or she would really like. Or the reverse, something that he or she gave to you. A gift, something special, something that he or she saved for you. And then the next time he or she or they saw you, gave it to you. Maybe you recall something he or she told you, revealed to you. Maybe this person told you something about your family that you before that did not know. Maybe this person told you an anecdote, a story about your parents or about your family, something that you just didn't realize. Maybe this person told you something about you when you were tiny, when you were like a toddler or just a wee little one. And it was something you didn't know about yourself. Maybe you remember a question that this person asked you. Jot it down. Maybe you remember something that this person showed you, something that this person pointed out to you. Maybe there's a wonderful piece of knowledge about the world and the natural world that you've carried around with you all your life because when you were a child, this person pointed that out to you. Just jot down, and all you need for this is a little, you don't need to explain the whole thing, you're just jotting things down now. Just a phrase will be enough to sort of mark that place in your mind. Maybe this person gave you something to use, some sort of tool, something that you could use. Maybe this person taught you to use something or to do something. Maybe this person gave you something for safekeeping. Maybe this person said, I want you to have this, and I know that you'll keep it safe. So what you might have now is a little list of memorable, and I say memorable because what? 5 minutes ago, you weren't thinking about these things, and suddenly your memory has brought them forth from somewhere inside you and put them down onto the keyboard or put them down onto a piece of paper. What a marvelous, marvelous creature memory is that we carry around with us all the time and ready to give to us parts of our life that maybe right now we aren't paying attention to, but to give us back, to return to us parts of our life. So what you might have, I'm hoping, is at least one thing from that list of possibilities I just went through, but maybe you have more than one. Shall I repeat myself? Yes, I will repeat myself. What you have in that second list, again, is abundance, is a kind of wonderful treasure that you can return to and write about whenever you want. But right now, I'm going to ask you to choose one of those little incidences in your list. One time when the two of you were together and something occurred between you that stays in your memory. So do that. Choose one. Is it hard? Is it difficult to choose? I hope so. That's good. If it's difficult to choose, you know you're on to something. If it's difficult to choose, that means that more than one of those things on that list is calling to you. You're in the catbird seat now, if that's happening. Just congratulate yourself. Be happy. Okay, so what you should have now is the name of the person you chose and the experience that you chose, correct? I hope so. Actually, I was part of a Zoom presentation last night. It was a celebration of this is Black History Month, and it was a celebration of Black poets. And the host said, you know, you have no real way of applause and in a Zoom meeting. So he said, you know, do what at a lot of gatherings of Black people that, you know, they applaud like this, so you can see the applause, and I love that. Anyway, so I'm assuming that there's some of this going on, and you have the one name and the one experience. Okay, are we all set? Is there anybody out there that is lost, left behind? Hope not. Okay, so here's what you're going to do. I'm going to ask you to place yourself in that situation now. Relive that moment in your life. Be the you, be that younger you, that childhood you, that 8-year-old, 10-year-old, 7-year-old, whatever. Be that younger you. Relive that experience at that age when you experienced it. Okay? And simply listen to me. And who's going to be listening to me? The 8-year-old you, the 9-year-old you, the 10-year-old you, whoever it is that you, wherever you have gone, wherever you are letting memory take you. So listen to me and jot down responses. Here we go. How old are you? Jot it down, keyboard it down. What year is it? A little simple math subtraction will do it. How old are you? What year is it? What season is it? And if you don't remember specifically, and interestingly enough, as we get farther in this, you probably will remember specifically. But if you don't remember specifically, guess. Writers are the best kind of liars and thieves. We lie every time we write a beautiful metaphor or a beautiful bit of figurative language. And if we can't remember exactly, we create a truth for what we're doing. How old are you? What year is it? What season? What month? Jot it down. Now, I know that you have already written this person's name down, but do you recall his or their full name? Maybe you remember a middle name. If you do, write it down now. Or a nickname, write that down now. What is this person's relationship to you? Jot it down. And I know that some of you are keyboarding. I'm just going to say jot, and I know you'll be able to translate that, okay? What is this person's relationship to you? Now, what does he or she or they call you? Does this person use your full name? Does this person use a nickname, a pet name for you? What does this person call you? Now, where are you? Name the place, town, state, country. What is it? Do you know the name of the neighborhood? Jot it down. Some of you, and I know more of you than you could imagine, will actually remember the street number of where you are. The street number and street name of where you are, or avenue or boulevard or whatever it is. Jot down the address. And I would almost, I'm not a wagering person, but I would bet money that at least one of you suddenly remembered that street address and thought, oh my Lord, I haven't thought of that in decades. All right. The room, if you are inside the room that you're in, jot it down. Kitchen, living room, sun porch, front porch, wherever you are, jot it down. All right. Last week we talked, not extensively, but a fair amount about imagery. All right, imagery. Let's start with sight. Look away from him or her briefly. Now you know where you are. You take your eyes away from this person just briefly. Maybe look to your left. What do you see? Jot down what you see. And don't tell me a tree, if that's what you see. Tell me what kind of tree. Tell me a little something about it. Don't just say traffic, if that's what you see. Tell me a little something about it. What do you see? Jot it down. Be specific. Move your neck a little bit more to the left and look. What do you see where you are in this time of your childhood, with this person who is so important to you? Or maybe you want to swing your head to the right and look sharp to the right. What do you see? Jot it down. Be specific. Maybe there are steps, stairs you remember vividly. Maybe there's a corner of the room or something up on the wall of that room that you remember vividly. Jot it down. Maybe something has come into your mind that you haven't thought of in decades. Maybe something that you would never have believed you would remember, but now you've remembered it. Jot it down. You've been concentrating on sight, what you can see. And I'm going to ask you to close your child eyes right now. To close your child eyes and listen. What do you hear? What are the sounds, the ambient sounds where you are right now? You, this younger self of you. What can you hear? Maybe the sound of a breeze moving through trees. Maybe you're inside. Maybe there is a clock ticking, a clock that fascinated you as a child, a mantle clock, a grandfather clock. Maybe you can hear the sound of a washing machine going, maybe a radio going in the other room. Listen, what do you hear? You're outside, bird call, children's voices, laughter, people talking. What do you hear? What sounds are there when you listen? And what can you sense, feel, as in air temperature, a little wind? Maybe what you can feel is the roughness or the smoothness of a piece of clothing that you have on. Maybe you've outgrown the jeans that you have on and they feel a little tight. Maybe you just went through a growth spurt. What do you feel? And now I want you to take a deep breath, hold it for a second, 2, 3, and then exhale slowly. And then take another deep breath. And tell me, jot it down, what do you smell? What scents are in the air? What odors? And now, that person you're with, that beloved person from your childhood, if you haven't already, I want you to open your eyes and take a deep, a searching look at her, at him, at them. What do you notice? What details, physical details about this person do you notice? Something about eyes, maybe nose, eyebrows, skin, wrinkles of the skin, mouth, chin, cheekbones, hair. Clothing that this person is wearing. Jot down a couple or three details about what you see when you look at this person. Is there a scent, a smell that you associate with this person? Maybe gum that this person chews, or a cologne, or a perfume, or an aftershave, or something this person puts on his or their hair. Maybe something about the kind of work that this person does. Maybe this person is a gardener and there's always that smell of fresh earth from this person's hands. Maybe this person, when this person does laundry, there's a particular laundry soap and you can catch that scent on clothing that this person wears. Maybe this person cooks, as in for the family. And so there are those scents of the kitchen. What are they? All right, the experience itself, the one that you chose, the experience back to which you have taken yourself, memory has taken you, you are your younger self. Describe briefly what this experience is. What does he or she say? What does this person say? What do you say in reply? What is happening between you? There's a reason that your memory held on to this, held on to it well enough that 15 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago, it came welling up when you started remembering things about this person. There's a reason. So what is it? What is happening? What does he, she, what does this person say? Jot it down. If you can't remember exactly, create it, make it up. You are going to, this is not lying. This is not untruth. These are truths that you will create to express a bigger truth. And what do you say? Try to remember the quality of this person's voice. Jot down something about that. What is it that goes on between you two at this point in your life that is memorable, that has stayed with you? for these years between your self of today and the self, your younger self, that whose life you are reliving right now. We are going to return to what you're doing right now. We're going to take a little interlude. We are going to look at a poem. I'm going to read it first, then I'm going to ask Joan to put it up on the screen. And you will return to this. I would hope that looking at this poem we're going to look at in a few minutes and talking a little bit about it will elicit from you, will draw from you even more wonderful memory and detail. I'm hoping you are not finished with what you're doing right now, that what you're doing right now is merely a start that will expand. But right now, I'm going to ask you to first listen to me read a poem to you. It's a poem by Joseph Stroud, an American poet. This is a poem from a book of his, a new and selected poems book called Of This World. So if I could have your attention, please, for just a few minutes. Grandfather. Now I see you in a small California town, asleep under fig trees, the black fruit swollen and ripe. Your shadow seems to deepen on the morning grass as pepper trees scatter their leaves like rain or seeds. I remember a summer morning we sat on your porch, the warped boards pocked with holes and nails, the fields freshly cut, the pond rimmed with willows. You tried to tell me why my brown bitch had eaten her young. It was a morning of bees. I saw the lights sing on their wings, a mellow gold quaking into music. You must have heard too, for when I turned, you had fallen into a dream, your throat humming with veins. Then I heard that other music, the cicadas, the green frogs. My bones drained like the sap of trees as I dreamed myself into the heart of the pond. I forgot everything I ever learned except your voice down there, singing of home, death, a blossoming tree. Joseph Stroud, Grandfather. Joan, would you put the poem up on the screen for us, please? Here it is, so that you can see it. A beautiful poem, I think. And I want you to notice, remember last week we talked about direct address? Direct address is in a poem when the speaker of the poem is speaking directly to someone else or something else. And here, the speaker who's looking back on something from his childhood is speaking directly to the grandfather. And I would assume by this point, the grandfather is dead, has been dead for a long time. That's one of the wonderful things about writing is when we write, we can do things that we couldn't do otherwise. We can speak to people who are absent. We can speak to things that couldn't necessarily return, couldn't necessarily answer us. So the poem is in direct address, and just a couple of things. If this poem weren't in direct address, now I see him in a small California town, asleep under fig trees, the black fruit swollen and ripe. His shadow seems to deepen on the morning grass as pepper trees scatter. I remember we sat on his porch, the warped boards, the fields. He tried to tell me, there's something, if we could have, the 24 of us could have a real conversation right now. I would ask you, what does Joseph Stroud, this poet, achieve with this direct address? And what he achieves is a kind of immediacy. Because if you take it out of direct address, you know, and just say he, him, at the end of the poem, for instance, I forgot everything I ever learned except his voice down there. What happens is you lose a kind of immediacy that you gain with that direct address, speaking directly to that person. Direct address is also in poetry called apostrophe, if it's directed to someone who can't answer. So I want you to keep that in mind, direct address. And then I also want you to take a look at the role of imagery in this beautiful poem, this poem that is kind of recounts a reverie, an unfolding reverie. The imagery in the poem is gorgeous. All kinds of imagery, sight imagery, sound imagery, imagery of touch. We sat on your porch, the warped boards pocked with holes and nails. You can almost feel that on your butt, right? Those warped boards and that rough surface. My bones drained like the sap of trees. That's a sense of touch, of inner feeling. The sight images are throughout the whole thing. Sound images, a mellow gold quaking into music. And then are there, taste and smell. Right away in a small California town, asleep under fig trees, the black fruit swollen and ripe. Now, figs swollen ripe. There's no way that you call that to mind that you don't call a scent also. So you've got direct address in this poem. You have imagery, you have concrete nouns throughout the poem. All right, let's take a look at that first stanza and strip the and when I say concrete nouns, I mean a noun that names something specific, not general, specific. take a look at that first stanza, and I'm going to strip the concrete nouns out of it. Now I see you in a small town, asleep under trees. Their fruit swollen and ripe. Your shadow seems to deepen on the morning grass as other trees scatter their leaves like rain or seeds. Now I think maybe I missed some concrete nouns to strip out, but do you see what happens? He names fig trees. He names pepper trees. And I'm not familiar with pepper trees, but I looked it up, and they are trees that have profuse flowers and berries and then pink peppercorns. Oh, what a wonderful image. That specificity, and that is throughout the whole poem. As I say, this is I think, a beautiful poem because of the way it unfolds. We talked a little bit about some of its specific attributes, but let's just take it quickly kind of through once again and see what's happening. Grandfather, now I see you. Now, in that first line, we know that the grandfather, he's speaking to the grandfather, and we're being called into that. We are joining him as he remembers his grandfather. Now I see you in a small California town, asleep under fig trees, the black fruit swollen and ripe. Oh, what a fabulous setting. Your shadow seems to deepen on the morning grass as pepper trees scatter their leaves like rain or seeds. And you can hear that too, can't you? The scattering. I remember a summer morning we sat on your porch, the warped boards pocked with holes and nails. Now, that may not seem important, but it is important. There is that porch brought alive for us. And we know that we aren't in a place of extreme wealth where repair people are fixing everything, once it starts to get a little shabby. This is a porch with warped boards pocked with holes and nails, the fields freshly cut. We're in a setting where there are fields around there that were cut. The pond rimmed with willows. You tried to tell me why my brown bitch had eaten her young. All right, there is the very heart of this experience, this exchange that the two have. This is a boy who is heartbroken. His dog has eaten her young, and he does not know how in the world that could happen. He goes to his grandfather and says in whatever words, Grandpa, what happened? Why? And his grandfather, with what I would assume is gentleness and compassion, tries to explain to the boy how this could have happened. But those two lines are all that Joseph Stroud gives us of that. And actually, it's very powerful because of it, because it just sort of sets off an explosion right there near the center of the poem. You tried to tell me why my brown bitch had eaten her young. And now, he says, it was a morning of bees. I saw the light sing on their wings, a mellow gold quaking into music. You must have heard too, for when I turned, you had fallen into a dream, your throat humming with veins. The bees, they're humming. When he turns and looks at his grandfather, he's fallen into a reverie, is daydreaming, and he sees those veins on his throat humming, of course, with the beating of the grandfather's blood. Then I heard that other music, the cicadas, the green frogs. My bones drained like the sap of trees as I dreamed myself into the heart of the pond. And then the poem lifts away into, the poem has been a beautiful reverie, but now for me, the poem lifts away into a real magic of reverie. I forgot everything I ever learned. You know, I think he's maybe talking about at that moment, he forgot, but I think he's also saying, in this whole life that I have lived, I've forgotten everything I've ever learned except what? Your voice down there, singing of home, death, a blossoming tree. This is not only a beautiful reverie, but it is a wonderful tribute to the grandfather and the grandfather's obvious compassion and loving spirit. Beautiful poem, and I hope that you will take into your writing, well, the spirit of this poem in the sense of how the poet includes so much vivid imagery in the poem. And whether you are going to write prose, a bit of memoir, or you're going to try a poem of your own, that is certainly an example to follow. Joan, do you want to, you can take this off, please, and bring us back. Oh, okay. That's, yeah, that's all right. Do the second one. Okay, so here is what I am going to suggest to you. When you were jotting things down, as I was kind of coaxing you, nudging you, all that wonderful material you were jotting down, what you want to do now, right after we say goodbye, or as I say, sometime later today or tomorrow or in a week, you want to return to that and shape it into a piece of remembrance, a piece of prose, a poem. I would suggest that you take, at least try using direct address. Try speaking directly to this person you're writing about, because what you will find is if you are speaking directly to this person, you will achieve with your voice, with your imagery, with your description, a kind of intimacy that you couldn't achieve otherwise. Maybe as you look at all the things that you jotted down, there will be some images there. You'll know exactly, they'll just be those images, that those bits of information will be throwing off so much heat, so much flame that you'll know, oh, I have to start right here with these. But if you don't know exactly where to start, you could borrow, can we have that image back, Joan? Thank you. If you wanted to, you could borrow something from Joseph Stroud, just a little kind of a starting structure. As you can see, it's up here on the screen. And if we were looking also at his poem, you could see that it's sort of structured. Now I see you, I remember, you tried to tell me, or I tried to tell you, or you gave me, or I gave you, or we talked about. And then I saw something you saw there, then I heard. You could kind of use his structure, and that would not be plagiarism. Those phrases that start out, or those words that start out those stanzas, are general enough that it would not be plagiarism to borrow that. And that at the end, you could let what you write open perhaps into something unexpected, something that might surprise even you. Because for me, Joseph Stroud it sounds as if he surprises himself a little bit when he says, I forgot everything I ever learned except your voice. Down there, singing of home, death, a blossoming tree. So 2 specific suggestions to try at least direct address. If you try it and you don't like it, ultimately, you can get rid of it and not use it. But I think it is worth your while as a writer to try it, because if you are writing, as you are writing, you are talking directly to that person. As I said earlier, you will have an intimacy that you would not have otherwise. It would be as if you could put your arm around that person and whisper into her ear, his ear, their ear, what you want them to know, what you remember. Because I know, writing about my grandparents, about people dear to me, my parents dear to me in my life, oh, how I wish I could speak those words to them directly. But in a poem, in a piece of creative prose, a bit of memoir, you can. So Joan, if you want to give us back regular screens, please. Yeah. So I think we are very close. Well, we are. Our hour is up. Judy, I don't know how timing is on this. I'm sure that some people need to leave us, but I would be happy to try to answer some questions if people have them. And